Hi, it's me, Miss Squizzle, and today I'm here to talk to you about the Great Deevolution. So if you recall, last lesson we talked about clonism. After the Muslim Civil War, the Muslims fell and clonism became on the rise. There was also a second group of sort of unnatural religion, which was Roboism. Now, Roboism believed that it was more ethical to create robots and let them take over the planet than to clone yourself. They thought that they agreed more with the Ethics of Science Council did during the time of Kyle Blue. So they were kind of like these humanists. They were kind of humanist in the sense that they believed things should either be human or robot. Like, they should be human or not. They did not like the idea of things that were near human. So the clonists took over the area of, they took over where Europe is and a lot of Asia. And Roboism took over a lot of North America. Then there were also a lot of other random factions. There was this one group that decided to bring back Italy. They thought that Italians were the final evolution of man. So they played Mario every day. They ate pizza all the time. It became a very strange cultural phenomenon. But that was only taking place in Egypt, which was not where Italy was, so that logic there was quite odd. But cloneism can be defined as a religion based around the need of reproduction to the point where intercourse becomes futile and the need to directly replicate oneself becomes urgent. So that they believed that you needed to clone yourself for there to be enough people. They believed that these clones were humans. It was a very controversial fact whether clones were humans or not. They fully believed that these clones were human. But that's when we get into the Great Deevolution. So the Great Deevolution was when the clonists started cloning themselves. And then they made clones of those clones because those clones were born into clonism. And they were raised in that religion and began to believe that they needed clones of themselves, and so on and so forth. So we have generations of clones. And every time you clone something, the DNA doesn't all stay intact. You lose some of it. So as these clones progressed, and there were clones of clones of clones of clones, instead of clones of an original source, the clones started to regress. They started to get dumber, they didn't work as well, they had all kind of malfunctions and were not proper people. So that's when you get to what they called the slime men. Now that was considered a slur at the time, but for historical accuracy, we will be referring to them as the slime men. They were humans that had become almost translucent, and they had barely any bones. So they just kind of wiggled around, they barely had brains. Another term used for them was jellyfish or jelly men. The slime men were about a third of the population. By the year 2085, they were about a third of the population, which was very scary numbers because the clones can reproduce faster than humans can and sooner than humans can. You can clone little kids. They didn't have rules against that. So they were cloning at such a high rate. 10 years later, they were a third of the population. The slime men had greater numbers, but now the Roboists were becoming a lot more passionate because they saw that they were right, that these clones aren't human and were messing things up. So the Roboists by now have an army of robots that they believe will be the future of the world, and the clonists have these clones that they believe will be the future of the world. And that leads us directly into the Robo Clone War. The Robo Clone War took place in 2081. The conflict began when the Roboist leader Callum Forte sent out a robot assassin to take out the slime men. Now this is where it gets interesting. The slime men had de-evolved so greatly that they didn't feel pain and weren't damaged by the robots. So that war was a very interesting war because the slime men were so hard to destroy because they were like just jelly. There wasn't anything to destroy. So that will be our next lesson, will be on the Robo Clone War of 2081. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Bye.